Today, one observer gave them a new name, the Bloody Olympics.
Officials also appeared to have ignored one of 26 possible terror scenarios, which specifically warned of a possible hostage-taking by Palestinian militants.
The Munich attack in 1972 changed everything.
The German government says it was convinced that this would have meant certain death for the Israelis.
They've now said that there were 11 hostages. 2 were killed in their rooms yesterday morning. 9 were killed at the airport tonight. They're all gone.
On September 5th, 1972, in Munich, West Germany, Black September guerrillas tragically kidnapped and murdered 9 Israeli athletes as well as their coaches due to ongoing disputes between Israel and Palestine. As a result, many attempts for revenge took place, which only furthered the conflict. Triumphantly, in recent years, conflicts have reduced in the Middle East because of agreements related to land, including the Treaty of 1979, along with international upgrades to airport security.
It all began in the Middle East, between Israel and its neighboring Arab countries, like Palestine. Israel became a country in 1947 thanks to the United Nations. One of the first tragedies that occurred was the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, which was Israel against its neighbors like Egypt, Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia. Israel showed great strength and power and managed to push back the enemies. Through the 1949 armistice agreements, Israel successfully received over 50% more land than before. Another tragedy was the 1967 Six-Day War. This war was a repeat of the Arab-Israeli War with most of the same opponents and the same outcome. Winning the war in 6 days, Israelis remember that day as a triumphant moment for their small country. Back in 1964, the Palestine Liberation Organization, or the PLO, was created. The group started out peaceful, but shortly after became recognized for associating with terrorism and extremism. After the Six-Day War, the PLO's dangerous activities had escalated. The PLO was located in Jordan and was constantly being attacked by Israel. King Hussein of Jordan had decided to take action because he did not want his country to have to deal with Israel's attacks. In 1970, King Hussein decided to get rid of the Palestinians and relocate them into refugee camps in other Arab countries. That did not stop the Palestinians, and they formed a terrorist group known as Black September, this time with one goal in mind: to take revenge on Israel and Jordan. Israel was competing in the 1972 Olympics along with many other countries. Palestine attempted to have a team go and compete in the Games of Peace and Joy by sending a letter to the Olympic Committee twice, but they never got a response from both of the attempts. In 1971, at a training camp south of Beirut, Lebanon, 50 men competed for a place in Black September, but they all had no information about the task whatsoever. Lutif Afif, also known as Issa, was the group leader. His team consisted of Yusuf Nazal, or Tony, the second in command, Mohammed Safadi, Jamal Al-Ghashi, and his uncle Adnan Al-Ghashi. Khalid Jawad, Ahmed Sheikh, and Afif Ahmed Hamid were also on the mission.
The Black September terrorists arrived at the Olympic Village at around 4 a.m. on September 5th wearing vibrant tracksuits. Their tactic to enter the gates was clever, communicating and exchanging jokes with American athletes and jumping over the fence to act like regular contestants. No one suspected a thing, not even the security guards. The only thing that the guards were equipped with were walkie-talkies to call for help. Carrying their duffel bags that contained dangerous and powerful guns, the terrorists entered the building Connolly Strasse 31, carrying out their plan to find and take the Israeli athletes hostage. They silently broke into apartments 1 and 3. In apartment 1, they found coaches Amitzer Shapira, Kahat Shor, and Moshe Weinberg. In apartment 3, Mark Slavin and Eliezer Halfin were first to be caught. The noise awoke Gad Sabari, and he was caught when he attempted to check on his teammates. Shortly after, David Berger and Zeev Friedman were taken. When the guards realized that something was wrong, they called the police chief of Munich, Manfred Schreiber. In exchange for the Israeli hostages, Black September requested for 234 Palestinians in Israeli jails to be released, along with terrorists Andreas Bader and Ulrich Meinhof from Germany's jails. There was no way that Germany would willingly hand over these criminals to the Palestinians, so the terrorists in Germany had decided to meet up to negotiate. Schreiber decided to offer them money, but Issa's response was not what he hoped for. "This is not about money," Issa yelled at Schreiber. "Talk of money is demeaning." Because that attempt failed, he convinced Issa to give them more time, which worked. Later, Schreiber thought of a new plan. He would let a woman negotiate with the terrorists instead to try to intimidate them. Annalise Grace was brave enough to volunteer for this. "What kind of rubbish is this?" Grace immediately questioned the terrorists. In Issa's French accent, he said that all of this had nothing to do with her or Germany and restated his requests. Grace told him that this would be impossible to fulfill. Issa did not want to reason. He simply stated that they release the prisoners or the hostages will all die. The plan was to board a bus that will take them to the secret airbase, first in Feldbruck, then they would board a plane together to Egypt. At 10:30 p.m., Germany planned on sniping all of the Black September guerrillas, but that did not happen, partly because they miscounted the number of terrorists. The fight finally began between the horrible snipers and skilled terrorists. Afraid to lose his team, Issa ordered for the Israelis to be killed. The guerrillas used weapons like grenades to burn the helicopters the hostages were in. At the end of this tragic battle, all 9 Israeli hostages, some German police and snipers, as well as 5 of the terrorists died, including Issa.
After the attack, the International Olympic Committee suspended the Games for September 5th, and they held a memorial for the athletes the next day. Some athletes blamed the German authorities for not providing enough security for their guests, as well as how they dealt with the terrorists. Of course, people also blamed the Palestinians, since the tragic incident would not have happened in the first place if Black September did not plan to strike. The remaining 3 terrorists who survived the tragedy at first in Feldbruck were captured, but they were able to be released shortly after for the exchange of the passengers and crew from a hijacked Lufthansa flight. This highly upset the Israelis, provoking them to create a secret mission with the codename Operation Wrath of God. Agents from the operation aimed for the terrorists that got released, killing 2 out of the 3. The final terrorist, Jamal Agashi, was said to still be hidden. Abu Dawad was another of the group's targets. Dawad confessed in being involved with this attack. He was eventually tracked down and he was shot 13 times in 1981, but that did not kill him. He died around 30 years later with no regrets of preparing this terrible Munich massacre attack. Shortly after the massacre, Israel and Egypt signed the Treaty of 1979. Egypt had concluded to do this because they finally realized Israel's right to exist. Due to this, Israel had to return the Sinai Peninsula taken during the 6-Day War, and as a result, Egypt was at peace with Israel. Other Arab countries eventually also made peace with Israel, but not through peace treaties. The only conflict remaining is between Israel and Palestine, which is yet to be resolved. Some current terrorist groups in the Middle East include the Taliban and Al-Shabaab. There have also been attacks in the United States, such as the 9/11 attacks caused by the group Al-Qaeda. Fast forwarding to around 2002, 30 years after the tragedy took place, family and former teammates of the Israeli athletes met up to mourn for them in Munich. Germany showed great security improvement by showering the Munich Olympic Village with well-trained and armed bodyguards, a few airplanes with snipers in them to prevent terrorists from invading, and many other changes.
The Munich Massacre, a terrible tragedy, occurred during the 1972 Olympic Games and killed 11 innocent Israelis because of arguments between Palestine and Israel. Many missions took place, such as Operation Wrath of God for revenge. Ever since 1972, tensions in the Middle East have reduced. In addition, many countries have learned about the importance of security, which led the world to a huge improvement in safety.